Here's what I've learned after starting 3 businesses. One of them a success, one of them a failure, and one of them in progress. I think a lot of us have dreams of starting a business. I know I certainly did. There's something very freeing about the idea. It really is like being a true artist of your life. It's incredibly expressive. Everything from the branding to the marketing to the idea to the team that you build. It's just a very cool thing. So I've been inspired to build a business since I was a kid. But then I got into the corporate world and I was working there throughout my 20s. And a funny thing happened to me, which was that suddenly my mindset shifted towards security. When you're in a corporate job, there's this real sense of incremental progression. You have promotion that's 1 or 2 years ahead of you. You have a sense of competition with other people. You have good pay. And everyone around you is talking about their career in terms of promotion and progression. So these ideas of starting a business become more fantastical because what it really means is abandoning all of that security, all of that safety, all of that certainty of progression and success and status for something that might turn into nothing at all. And you hear all of these statistics that are quite shocking. Like 9 out of 10 businesses will fail. So you just think in the back of your mind, you think, oh my God, this sounds really hard. Maybe I haven't got the knack for it. Maybe the timing isn't right. Or normally it's, I need to make sure I have the perfect idea before I launch something. So then you get caught adrift for many years just thinking an idea will just pop up or a connection will be made. And it doesn't happen. And actually that's because ideas don't just land from the ground like a feather from the sky, gently in the lap of your hands. To become creative, to generate ideas, it's a practice. I remember I went through a process of generating maybe 10 ideas a day. And actually the emphasis was on being as outlandish as possible. What would be the most ridiculous idea? Because you're just testing, you're stretching your mindset for creativity. And as you go through that process, funnily enough, ideas just start popping up. You're walking around and then you just have an idea as you're encountering a situation or an experience because you've primed yourself to have those ideas. So you can get yourself into that creative mindset before you even start a business. But ultimately what I would say is ideas don't matter. They really don't. It's commonly said that it's not about the idea, it's about the execution. And I think that's so true. And the reason for that is launching a business is like running a marathon. And so a lot of people have these aspirations and they set out ready to run, was it like 26 miles? And they haven't done any practice. They haven't been running on the weekends. They haven't been training their body in the right way. They haven't been training their mindset because a lot of it is a mental game. So they'll start and then realize there's no results and then give up. Or there's some hurdles that are too tough to overcome. That's if they can even get to the starting point. And I know this myself because I quit my comfortable job and I had an idea for a website that sold vegan sports nutrition. And this was a few years ago before it was absolutely everywhere. It seemed like a really growing niche. I had a lot of experience in retail. I was very excited about the possibility. I knew myself, I was buying a lot of these protein bars and I wanted the opportunity to taste them, but you had to buy them in large packages. So I thought, if you could find the individual items and do mix and match, that would be an amazing opportunity. So I got really hyped up about this idea, but I was very secretive about it because I thought, God, I don't want to share this idea. What if someone steals it? So there I am quietly working on this, keeping it close to my chest like they're nuclear codes. And even when I left my job, people asked what I'm about to do. And I just said, you'll find out. And I think that's quite common. We hold on to these ideas as if they're precious. They're really not. Because when you share an idea, what you find is you get a lot of feedback, which is actually incredibly helpful. So what is the response you're getting? Maybe they can connect your idea with another idea, introduce you to different people. Suddenly it develops and grows. You're also refining your elevator pitch. So it's a very helpful process. And really, you've got to recognize that for someone to want to start a business, they have to be passionate about it. So the likelihood of your idea inspiring them in the way that it inspires you is very low. And you're much better just to get some momentum behind the idea than you are to keep it to your chest. It's because it starts to become alive. You're talking about it more. But the other reason that ideas aren't important is because they evolve and they grow. Really, your initial idea is just that first spark. It's to get you moving, to get you out there. And then as you go along the journey, it shifts and it changes. And that's so important because what you're doing is you're exposing the idea to the market. And it's the market that will ultimately determine whether or not an idea is successful. And that's what I found with my first business in sports nutrition. I had this idea about mix and match protein and protein powders and put it to the market and realized, oh, this isn't actually what people wanted, because it takes effort to choose from hundreds of different products without ever having seen it or tasted it. So then what I found out was that people wanted selection boxes, things that were predetermined. It removes that element of choice paralysis. And it was the same thing with my second business, launching a hypnosis app as part of a startup. It was to help people quit smoking. And I did a lot of market research to understand smoking and what would be helpful for people in that process. Put it out there in the market and realized, got it completely wrong. The program itself was designed for someone to quit smoking on day one and then to support them on the journey thereafter. And that just didn't work for people. It's too much of a leap to just quit smoking and then to be supported. They really needed to have a preparation phase, a period of time where they would gradually reduce. So the idea evolved, and I've heard of ideas that have been completely different from initial conception to launch. And that's part of the process. Very often what happens with entrepreneurs starting out is they get caught in their own mind. So an entrepreneur will try and think through the market in their own mind. They'll try and work out, what is the response there's going to be? What should the price be? What should it look like? Without ever having spoken to anyone. So all you've got for information is whatever is going on in your head. That's why getting something out to the market as early as possible is so critical. Speaking to people, so speaking to users. So this time around with my third business, I'm doing market research by having user interviews, because I've got a hypothesis that people want to be supported to make a leap of faith, to quit their corporate job and to start a business or to do something much more meaningful. That's my hypothesis. But I need to go out and validate that. And I need to understand how are the potential customers speaking about that problem. And in fact, already I've learned that the language I've been using probably isn't resonant at all, because I was talking a lot about purpose and meaning. And although that is an underlying driver, that's not the way people talk about it. People are talking about it in terms of having a job that makes them jump out in the morning. People are talking about it in terms of a more fulfilling or balanced life. And so hearing the language that people are using and then being able to incorporate that into your marketing explodes the potential of what you can do with your business. And I know that's the scariest thing sometimes, is to talk about your idea. For some reason, I just had a huge block around it. It's scary as hell. Even this time around with my coaching business, reaching out to people on LinkedIn and asking to have this conversation was really hard. I was putting it off because you're being incredibly vulnerable. You're exposing yourself. And there's always, at least for me, that fear of rejection or humiliation, whatever it might be. But I'll tell you, once you've done it, at least once, that weight goes. And that's what I'm just finding in general with fear, is it's just like this terror. It's almost like some barbed wire that you see around you, and you just feel like it's going to have some electrical current, and you're terrified of even touching it. You get close to it and then you back away. But then you do it, you touch the wire and you realize, oh, that was it. Like maybe there's a little bit of a jolt, but really it was nothing. And it's just keeping you caged in, because the potential for you when you can remove those barriers, when you can remove those fears, it's enormous. That's why I'm so passionate about limiting beliefs and how you can break them. Because we all have these stories that we tell ourselves. We might have a story that, oh, I'm introverted. I'm not very good with sales calls. What's that based on? Like a few experiences that you've had throughout your life, or perhaps even a parent or teacher once calling you shy. You've now internalized that story and you tell yourself, I'm shy. And I know this myself. I remember being told that I was a shy boy. And for a while, I was. I lived up to that character. We just tend to do that with ourselves. So The beauty of starting a business is you really expose yourself to all of these fears, all of these limiting beliefs. It's like a playground. If you can see it that way, that you're just learning and growing through the process, it's really cool. I've grown massively since I first launched that business 3 or 4 years ago. And it was a learning curve, having to adjust to being completely self-motivated, none of the accountability, none of the meetings or calls that kind of give that sense of daily progression, even if nothing's actually happening on those meetings or calls, was really hard. And the first time that I launched a business, I didn't have any support. I didn't have a coach or a mentor who would help with that accountability or help me to question things and see things from a different perspective. And only now do I see the value in that. So I was doing it alone. And I was doing a lot of mindset adjustment as well, because it takes guts. And I remember when I launched, to so much internal hype and excitement. And then I got some initial orders from friends and family, and then there's just this dull thud and just crickets. And it's difficult because you've built up in your mind that launching is the finish line, but it really isn't. And in fact, it seems like a very common story that when you launch, that's just the start, because you've now exposed the idea to the market, and now you have to change your hypothesis, test new things, and keep working day in, day out. And I knew this at the time, and I actually came across this beautiful idea that really helped and continues to help me, which is that you should focus on the effort, not the results. And that's important because there won't be results. There really won't be results. It takes time. It's like compound interest. In the beginning stages, there's nothing there at all, but then very soon it becomes exponential. So I'd be there writing blog posts and doing social media and marketing, and maybe seeing like one sale come in every now and then, but not really very much. But I kept plugging at it. And this idea of seeing a business almost like planting a seed. You put it in the ground, you make sure that it's getting enough sunlight, enough water, enough nutrition, enough fertilizer. You're doing your daily actions, essentially. You're going out there and you're doing the marketing, you're speaking to people, going to markets, whatever it might be. That's all in your control. How that seed grows and develops, ultimately that is not in your control. And the risk is that you're so curious that you want to dig up the soil and see if the roots are taking hold and if it's spreading, and you kill it. So you just have to trust. You have to trust that you are providing it with the right nutrition to grow and to sprout into a little seedling, and then it gets stronger and stronger. So I found that incredibly motivational and helpful in the process of launching a business, and the same applies here. I know that I'm putting a lot of effort into creating content like these videos, and it's not leading to a direct result to anything yet, but it's laying the roots. It's helping to establish the idea in the market, but also for me as well, I'm refining what it is that I'm offering through this process. So I hope that's been helpful. All I would say is, if you have any curiosity about starting a business, oh my God, follow that curiosity, follow that itch. Just see where it can take you. See if you could do something on the side of your current job. If you have the idea of creating a product, could you just create a landing page, a website, and provide some information and collect emails? And you can advertise that. You could just spend a few £100s, a few $100, whatever it might be, and say, hey, I'm going to market this and see whether or not the market responds to it. Do I get email signups? Can I contact these people and ask them about what they would like from the product? Or could you speak to people? Could you go to a pharmacy or a supermarket and go to a relevant aisle and say, hey, I noticed that you were looking at vitamins. I'm thinking of creating some CBD gummies. What would you think about XYZ? It will be scary for sure, but you can just know that whenever you feel that fear, whenever you feel that resistance, that's the sign of a barrier holding you back, and you just need to reach out, grab it, and realize it's not there at all. And your whole landscape opens up. Everything becomes so much more freeing. So for personal growth, the journey of launching a business just cannot be beaten. So good luck.